It's time for the Wrestling Observer Extra.
One more time for old time's sake.
With Dave Meltzer, right here on The Law. Live audio wrestling.
And let's go. My now smoking with the best.
Welcome back. Hour two of The Law, that is. And as I said, we will get back to your phone calls. Lots of people want to chat tonight, John.
Hey, a minute 27, it can spark a lot of discussion.
You know, in the world of wrestling, we always say never. Expect the unexpected. Tonight, and even yesterday, there was a lot of that. Bill Goldberg said it was one and done. The WWE agreed. Not so much anymore.
Nope. It looks like he's coming back. And that was the right move. He's over. I mean, he was over in Toronto.
Yeah, there was a lot. You know, we had talked to you about that there was a lot of question when it was originally booked that Toronto is a strange place to put Bill Goldberg into, simply due to the history with Bret the Hitman Hart giving him the concussions and the big spot they had here with WCW with the metal plate, etc. But he was way over tonight, very much accepted. Now, what did you take out of the 90-second match? There are some people criticizing it, saying it wasn't enough. John and I feel as though, hey, this is a way of making this work.
I thought it was the right thing. I mean, it's like when you saw it, it was the right thing. Everybody just reacted. Sometimes you just do that kind of stuff. It was a risky move. I think that one of the things, I think that was probably the reason why they did that 50-minute plus match was kind of like to make up for the fact that they were going to do the short main event. I don't know if Goldberg's injury played a part in it, but I think it worked better this way. This is what people remember Goldberg by, the spear and the jackhammer. That's it. And, you know, it's old school wrestling. It's you do what got the guy over. They didn't do it the first time they had him. I guess they learned from their mistake, and, you know, they finally maybe have somebody who's really hot right now. You know that, and you know, what better way to introduce a new guy? I mean, hopefully they'll get a lot of dates out of them as opposed to just one or two more, because that would be a lot to get somebody over that big and only have like one or two dates left with them. So we'll have to wait and see how it all goes down.
It's amazing when you look at the transformation just over the past couple of months, Dave, of where, I mean, Vince McMahon was really, his arm was twisted to use this guy, and it was with the understanding it would be once, he'd be in and out, and now we look at it, and I can't imagine, Dave, this finishes before WrestleMania. I think it's a lock that this goes to Mania.
He's got to work WrestleMania.
Must.
He's got to work a big match at WrestleMania, at least Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, if not, you know, if not as long as it's worth doing. You know what I mean? It's like, and you don't know what that is until it happens. You know, I think that's probably the right way is to be open-minded about it. And as long as his body can hold up, and as long as the people want to see him in a big enough way that it's worth everyone's while, he should be around.
Would you expect, his next match to be the Rumble? And what do? Do you put these two in the Rumble and that kind of peters off into your WrestleMania match? Or do you do the rematch earlier? Because I think this has the legs to get to Mania.
I think that they're going to do the rematch at Mania, but I don't know. I could see holding it off till WrestleMania. But if you put both in the Rumble, and I wouldn't put him in the Rumble unless he's going to win, and I don't think he should win the Rumble. So I would say that if he's going to work the Rumble, and he should work the Rumble, it should probably be in a match. And really, the match is either Goldberg, Undertaker. I don't know if Cena's the right mix, but and everybody else, I think, you know, I'm not sure that, I don't think anyone else is big enough for that match. So just other than Cena, Brock, or Undertaker.
Well, let's talk about The Undertaker. He made that appearance this week on SmackDown and says WrestleMania does not define him. And we're going to see more of The Undertaker. Speculation was that the SmackDown team would lose tonight, and then The Undertaker might go after AJ Styles, but they ended up winning tonight. So what do you foresee for The Undertaker?
I don't know. That's where, Goldberg fits in, you know, as far as that, although that would be a babyface match.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, like when at least like they'll have somebody really strong for Undertaker, you know, if they go in that direction. Even if he loses to Yeah, I think even if he loses the rematch to Lesnar, he could still work with Undertaker at WrestleMania. It's still a dream match. I think he's still strong enough for that. As far as, anything else, I mean, there's always the talk of Undertaker and John Cena. It's never really been done at WrestleMania. There's a lot of directions you can go with him.
Dave, in terms of the elimination matches tonight, I mean, I was somewhat surprised of how you book a best-of-3 series and have the one side win the first two. I didn't really understand what is up for grabs in this final elimination match. It almost seemed like we just had participation medals for both brands because SmackDown won the main one, but Raw won the numbers game.
That's what I figured was going to happen. I figured one brand would win 2, and then the other brand would win the big one. And that's how they did it.
So we have no winner. I mean, they asked why no one cares about this.
And because they're supposed to be separate but equal. You're not supposed to, it's like you have 2 children, and you can't love one more than the other, so one gets the more expensive gift, but the other one gets more gifts, and that's how you do it.
That's the unique parenting of the WWE, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's Vince's deal, yeah.
But then none of your kids are over, and you have to ask that at the end of this whole event.
Parody booking with your children.
Birthday party from hell.
I was surprised, Dave, in the men's Survivor Series match tonight. If I had picked 2 people that were definitely not going to survive, they would have very well been Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton.
They really put them over.
They really did. What's the direction here?
Especially Randy Orton.
Yeah, and I figured that this is a short-term thing with Orton as a Wyatt member, etc., and they would be spinning this off. But is this long-term with Randy Orton as a Wyatt?
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Very.
I know, and because no one buys it, and I think now. But the thing is like, especially because he did it to Roman Reigns, it's like they're baby faces.
Yeah.
Even though they're supposed to be the top heel, I think they're supposed to be the top heel group with AJ on the brand, but, you take out Roman Reigns, with that RKO, I mean, that, makes you, the way that they did, and the other thing is he sacrificed himself. I mean, that's a total babyface move anyway.
Well, that's a total I'm possessed move, though, right? Is what they're playing out.
When I watched Orton, he felt like a babyface, just the way he worked the whole night. So it's a really interesting dynamic. But I think that's what they want. I think they want you guessing.
For the 3 shows this weekend in Toronto, Dave, I mean, certainly they're going to just add upon this next year with the 4 events per host city for the Big 4. I mean, we got to see here in Toronto. I mean, this was not a set of shows where there was a lot of people traveling for these shows. It was largely Toronto people attending these events. NXT, to the best of my knowledge, was not sold out, and you could get tickets very easily the day of.
And NXT was a couple thousand shy of a sellout, from what I understand.
So, I mean, looking ahead to this, Dave, I mean, it's going to be interesting, the markets. I think WrestleMania is certainly one where you don't have to worry about this, but Houston next year asking people for 4 nights. I mean, do you see this as something viable for your non-WrestleMania weekends where you're going to be doing 4 consecutive nights?
Well, I think that the first Houston's going to be the real test because WrestleMania is the first one that they're doing the 4. San Antonio, they're doing the 3, and I think that will work okay because the NXT. I don't know about NXT. Well, Rumble, I think people will travel for Rumble. Their building is a little bit smaller that they're going to be running NXT in, so they'll do okay there. And Raw will do fine no matter what, the day after the Rumble. Mania is going to do fine. Brooklyn, will do fine. So the real one, Houston, as far as by the time they get to SmackDown, we'll see. If it doesn't work, next year they can go back to 3. I think the 3 will work because even in Toronto, because they didn't sell out NXT, but it's still, it was 9,500, 10,000 people at NXT. That's a lot more than NXT draws anywhere else. It was a big success. Yeah. It was a great show.
Oh, it was a very good show, and speaking of that, we've touched on it a bit on the show, but with Joe winning the title there, do you see the flip-flop happening when these two are in, Australia or overseas?
Well, they're doing rematches in Osaka.
They're doing a rematch. Yeah. They're doing a rematch in Osaka, and I think in Melbourne too, right?
Yes, the cage match is in Melbourne.
Yeah.
So I guess that's an option. I assume,
and they're taping both shows.
Right.
So they could do something. I mean, it makes sense for him to win it back in Osaka, to me.
I would have to imagine, Dave, that as this feud is getting to its conclusion, I mean, there is no room for both of these guys at the end of this feud. To me, it's one or the other needs to be moving on by
They both
Rumble.
need to be in the main roster. They're both way, Joe is
Well,
way
both
too good.
should, but I'm not expecting both to move, just at the pace that they go.
Yeah, I mean, they probably will keep winning. Well, the one they're going to keep down to me is probably Nakamura, because I see Bobby Roode as the new, the new challenger to the champion, and that would mean that you would probably, unless you're going to turn Joe, that would probably mean Nakamura is the one that stays.
I think that's a wise choice, because I do not want to see Roode and Joe in the ring together. It's just when you have two guys that were so well branded with TNA in the ring together, it does bring back those memories, and I don't think it works for the NXT brand. Just me?
Yeah. I mean, and plus Roode and Nakamura is something completely new program anyway.
Very much so. And it's just amazing how one word and one song has put Bobby Roode more over than he ever has been.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole business is crazy when it comes to stuff like that. I mean, it's always been like that, but I think it's more so than ever before, where it's so much of it is based on irony as much as anything else, just luck of the draw. I mean, like, people will go like, oh, you have to know what you're doing and blah, blah, blah. I think that so much is just luck and timing. And not that Bobby Roode isn't good, and if you're no good, you won't be able to keep it. But Bobby Roode would have been fine in NXT anyway, and he was over right away. But this, obviously, the song took him to a new level.
Well, when it comes to luck and timing for the first 6 months of the year for the UFC, it looks to be bad and poor when it comes to their pay-per-view lineups for this first half of the year, Dave. I mean, in a year where they have to meet some really high markers, I cannot imagine Ronda Rousey turning around, if at all, if she's going to fight beyond December the 30th. And now the news, Conor McGregor gone till at least May, which you figure he'd be held off till July. These are going to be a tough 6 months for this company.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. It's like, but hopefully they save their money from this year, because this year's a phenomenal year.
Yes.
So, I mean, I'm not crying for them and they're and everything, but
does
but
this incentivize them to?
You're right. I don't even know what they do for the first couple of pay-per-views of the year.
I
no
feel
clue.
you have to make good with George at this point. I mean, he has a lot of leverage to me, and my God, Bellator was just putting him all over their show last night, putting up photos of him. I think that's someone you need at this point to just prop up some of that first 6 months.
Well, the one thing, especially with Bellator having signed Fedor, is that they're willing to spend a lot of money. But with George wanting that much, I don't know how you justify it. I mean, they would love to have George, and George, sooner or later, UFC is going to have to, no matter what, even though if UFC says he's property of them and everything, at some point, you either got to book him for a fight or you got to let him go. I mean, that's pretty obvious, but can Bellator, Bellator is not looking to do pay-per-views at all. And how do you justify George's money if he wants, multi-millions of dollars? I mean, if George will fight for less, but if George will fight for less, he'd fight in UFC right now. UFC, for $2 or $3 million, I can't imagine UFC not wanting him. I think it's because the number's closer to 10, and maybe he's priced himself out of the market. Although, geez, George and Conor, 10's a bargain for both of them if they face each other. That's the match to make.
It definitely is. Though, if you're waiting on Conor, you might need George in the middle there if they can make that happen for the early months of 2017. We will follow that along. I'm sure you'll have coverage of, let's see, you got Bellator, you got both of the UFC events, you've got Survivor Series TakeOver, Raw tomorrow, all that in the Observer this week, Dave?
And Ed Francis, Association for Wrestling in Hawaii. Yep, a lot. It's. I knew this week was going to be tough going in, and it is. But I will say it's better when you got two great shows, and I really enjoyed both of the WWE shows this weekend.
Well, there you have it. Well, we look forward to that, and we look forward to talking to you again next week at the same time, Dave. Thanks much.
Okay, have a great week.
Great,
Thanks,
you
Dave.
too. WrestlingObserver.com, of course, is where you can find all of Dave's work that we talk about each and every week here on the program.